why did you elect to come to Yale for your graduate research, and what did you study at Dervan, and how did that influence why you came here and the research that you did?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit first about before Yale, and then the road to Yale, and then the road after Yale. So I was an undergraduate at Boston College. I grew up in Boston. And I was a chemistry major in college. Almost by default. I had simply done well in chemistry in high school. I was a hardworking, earnest student in high school, college preparatory school, Boston College High School. So took a lot of Latin, a lot of Greek with the Jesuits. Went on to BC, and I think, to be honest, majored chemistry by default simply because I was good at it. No passion yet. I did do some undergraduate research during the summers in my junior and senior year at Boston College. So I had a sense of what a small research lab might look like. And I think because I had the opportunity to do research, I then understood what it might take to get a PhD. And so I decided that I would go on then to graduate school to earn a PhD. But I still wasn't sure where I was going to end up in life, whether I would end up perhaps working for Chevron Research or for Merck Pharmaceuticals, or perhaps be a professor. There was enormous ambiguity and uncertainty when I was in college regarding my future. And so, if you guys feel that way, don't worry about it, okay? Because it's all raining at the end of the day. So, after Boston College, very positive experience. I decided, having grown up in New England, that I wanted to see more of America. And so actually I started graduate school in Madison, Wisconsin, at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. A chance to experience the Midwest. And I joined Professor Jerry Berson's research group. That's B-E-R-S-O-N. And I was very, very happy in Wisconsin and in Madison, and I really enjoyed the people in the Midwest, having grown up in and so Yale wasn't quite in the picture yet. And after I was in fact, just about my very first year joining Professor Berson's group, this was in organic chemistry. This would be in the year 1967. So this was the time of the Vietnam War. I remember in college Kennedy being assassinated. This was an extraordinary time in the 60s to be a student. A lot of agitation going on in America about who America wanted to be. And Jerry decided that he would accept an offer to move to Yale. He was a quite prestigious professor, probably in the prime of his career. And the Yale chemistry department was bringing in Ian Scott, a great, great organic chemist on the bio side, and then Jerry Berson was a very, very deep scholar in the area called mechanistic organic chemistry, how bonds are made and broken. This was the rage back in the late 60s. And so my experience then in Wisconsin was short-lived. His entire group packed up our car and drove across America and arrived at Yale as a young graduate student. So I did all of my major research at Yale. Yale was really, truly my chemistry graduate experience, and obviously I earned a PhD from Yale. I must say, being in Berson's group, one of the important things that happened to me was I discovered the joy of research. I really discovered a passion in life. I found that I loved being in the lab. I found that I loved in doing research the risk that is involved in research. So not everybody can do research. It's tough emotionally. There's a lot of delayed gratification. You might work 6 months on a problem and it will completely collapse and fail, where there's no new finding. Or a year, or 2 years. So it's like going to the racetrack. There's a huge gamble involved. The currency in this case being your time and your effort and your blood, sweat, and tears. And so I think that if there's something that I derived from the experience at Yale and from Professor Burson, who is now a Yale professor, was just how much fun it was to do research. Okay, so I found a passion in life at Yale, a passion that I would be a research scientist, not necessarily an academic professor yet, but that I would be a research scientist, that I would commit my life to that. And Yale at the time had a very, very strong chemistry department. There were other professors, like Ken Weiberg, Marty Saunders, Mike McBride, the junior faculty. These were all wonderful, wonderful professors that as a group was one of the dominant groups in America in the field of physical organic chemistry. Yale had a very, very strong group in organic chemistry. Today they continue that tradition. So then it was time for me to graduate. Now having earned my PhD, this was very, very late in the year 1972, so probably November or December of 1972. I borrowed my brother's Dodge Dart, little 6-cylinder car, and I decided that now, having grown up again in New England, and now seeing Yale, so I thought about it. So I witnessed a strong liberal arts education at Boston College. Then I saw this marvelous, great Midwestern university, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, these fabulous land-grant universities that we built. And then this extraordinary Ivy League university, Yale. And most of my colleagues at Caltech, it was one of the top 2 or 3 chemistry departments in America. And I must tell you that I thought for sure these guys will find out that I'm just regular and I'll get fired in 5 years, but it would be so much fun to hang out at Caltech for 5 years. So who cared if I didn't get tenure? And so I think that's probably another part of my personality, is that particularly when I was very young, I was not afraid of risk at all. And so the risk that comes with research, the risk of taking a job with almost no postdoc under my belt at a top department, I was always willing to walk through that door when it appeared. I can only say that now in retrospect. At the time, probably seemed like an idiot. So then what happened? So I set up my group at Caltech, and I started working in research problems that were actually, to be honest, not too far from my PhD experience, because I knew in my own PhD experience what were the technically difficult problems that had yet to be solved. And so I said, well, I know the questions, so I'll go and solve those problems. And so my first 3 or 4 papers in the field of physical organic chemistry, one for biradicals would be the gas phase hydrocarbon rearrangements, thermal rearrangements was the field. And I wrote, to be immodest for a second, some absolute first-rate papers in the field. And I think it was clear to my colleagues that I potentially had the potential to be one of the young stars in this field of thermal rearrangements and physical organic chemistry. But now I'm going to tell you another secret, another very important turning point in my life. And so when I would then teach my field, because now I was a professor, so now I'm doing research and teaching. And I found that I love teaching. I love getting up in front of the students and teaching them stuff. I was a natural. I enjoyed it. It gave me pleasure. So here's the secret. And so teaching very much makes the professor a stronger researcher. And the professor, being a strong researcher, brings that enthusiasm into the classroom, and the students can detect it. But it's ham and cheese, it's apple pie and ice cream. They absolutely go together, they synergize each other. It's amazing how important the combination of research makes you a better teacher, and being a terrific teacher, if you think about it, can profoundly influence what you do for research. So here's what happened to me. In this was a huge turning point. And again, when you walk through the door, you don't realize it. You only see it in retrospect. And so I decided from teaching that I didn't want to work in a field that was mature. I said to myself, I want to create my own field. Because what's important in research is not what's the answer. What's important in research is to figure out what the question is. And so quite often when you're doing research and you get a piece of data and you get a surprise, an unanticipated finding, it's the surprise that you embrace, because that tells you you were asking the wrong question. Is that cool? How cool is that? And so I decided that I wanted to work in a field not of what's called covalent bonds, strong bonds, but the weak forces that actually allow macromolecules to bind together, proteins to nucleic acids, for example. How does a protein string fold? How do you what's called structure function? I was interested in what chemists would call the field of molecular recognition. This is 1975 now. And I decided that I would take my entire research program, my entire research career, and I was at the time untenured, and I would study weak bonds in water, I would study molecular recognition, and I chose DNA as my template, as the macromolecule that I would study. And I studied molecular recognition of DNA. Now at the time, my chemistry colleagues, who I think liked me personally and valued me as a strong teacher at Caltech, thought I was taking my career right off the cliff. But this was like a lemon. And so I worked in this field of molecular recognition of DNA. I started writing my first papers in the late 70s. And then the rest is history. Two of my former co-workers here is Alana Shepard's, who was a postdoc in my group, and Scott Strobel, who was a PhD graduate student in my group, and is now a vice president at the university. And from what I understand, highly valued teacher. The students really value the quality of Scott Strobel's teaching. So I'm really proud of him. I've been at Caltech 38 years. Like I said, 50 to 60 students in academics, 325 papers published in high-quality journals. And I've helped establish a field called chemical biology, broadly speaking, and I've certainly been influential in this area of molecular recognition of DNA. I mean influential intellectually in terms of papers. But when you get to, you get into your 50s and 60s, you think about how are you going to give back. One day, Rick Lemon called me, and he asked me if I would come out and have lunch with him on campus. And he was interested at the time and asked me if I would serve on what's called the Yale University Council. And so President Levin has this group of about 30 people from all walks of life, a broad, diverse group of people that, and I'm assuming that they're all Yale alumni, that advise him on issues all the way from the business school and the medical school and the music school, all the great, diverse, fabulous institutions that make up this extraordinary university. And so I said yes instantly. I had so much respect for Richard Levin. I must tell you that you have what I think is the greatest university president in America. It's just fabulous, but you guys know that. And about that time, so I'm not going to get the dates correct here. Again, this was unanticipated good fortune. I received the National Medal of Science, and you go to the White House for that. You get to shake the president's hand when he puts a medal around your neck. And so that's a biggie. That kind of is quite rare in one's career. And so Rick then asked me, on behalf of the Alumni Association, would I stand for election to the Yale Corporation. Now, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I figured because they put up 3 candidates. And again, I said yes in the interest of service. And again, I just have such respect and affection for Rick. But I thought for sure they'll never, the alumni will never elect their chemists, scientists, right? So this is going to happen. And so remarkably, in this alumni election, I then moved from the council to the corporation. And so I'm an alumni fellow. As you know, there's 6 alumni fellows elected by the alumni. And so I will have a 6-year tour of duty as a fellow of the corporation. And I've been on the corporation just a few years, so I'm sort of approaching midway. So I've got some years to contribute still, and years where I would say that I've been on a learning curve. And it's absolutely fascinating to watch the complexity of running a modern university. There is the colleges and the renovation of the colleges. There is the business school, the School of Management. There is the medical school and its relationship to New Haven. Just as I came on board, Rick Levin and the corporation acquired this 136 acres in West Haven as an opportunity. This was completely unanticipated when it became available, and they seized the opportunity for history. What else? And then there's the whole issue of I think Rick is truly committed in his presidency to elevate science and engineering on the Hill to the same level that we have in the humanities. I mean, our history departments and English departments are like number 1 or 2 in America, and have been that way for a long time. And so the science is rightfully should be in that same position. And so it's been full circle for me. So came to Yale as a graduate student. I was happy at Yale, productive at Yale. This is where I did the substance of my PhD research. Life took me by accident to California, to stay in California, and now I've come full circle back in service to Yale. I don't want to say it's an accident, but it is. That doors will just open that you can't anticipate. And in science, you can never go back and do the controls, right? So in life, you can't do the control. If I didn't step through that door, what would have happened? You can't rerun the control. And so you step through.